সুস্থ থাকার সেরা ঠিকানা আইএলএস হসপিটাল, আগরতলা। At ILS Hospitals, your health is our happiness.
The heart is located in the center of the chest, inclined slightly towards the left-hand side. It shares the interior of the rib cage with the lungs. In cross-section, we can see that it's hollow and divided into 4 chambers. The heart is basically a sac of specialized muscle filled with blood, oxygen-rich blood and oxygen-poor blood. Connected to these chambers are the largest blood vessels in the body. From these branch out the lesser blood vessels, which, along with the blood, comprise the rest of the circulatory system. The heart powers the circulatory system. It is the pump, and pumping blood is its one and only job. The circulatory system distributes food and oxygen to, and takes wastes away from, each of the individual cells of the human body. The blood vessels reach these cells by branching out into capillaries, the smallest and most plentiful blood vessels. The blood carries the food and oxygen, which pass through the thin walls of the capillaries and directly into the living cells. At the same time, wastes from the cells pass back into the capillaries. Without a constant supply of fresh blood, the cells would quickly die. It's the heart's job to keep the blood in motion.
Each day, the average human heart beats 100,000 times. The rate of your heartbeat is controlled by a natural pacemaker called the sinoatrial node, located in the top right atrium or chamber of the heart. The sinoatrial node produces the electrical impulses that cause your heart to beat. These electrical impulses pass through the muscles of both atria, causing them to contract. This forces blood into the ventricles, or lower chambers, of the heart. The electrical activity in the atria stimulates an additional electrical impulse, this time in the atrioventricular node. The second impulse causes the ventricles to contract, flushing the blood out of the ventricle.
The circulatory system consists of blood contained in a network of vessels called the vascular system that's connected to a pump, the heart. The left side of the heart receives oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it to cells and tissues throughout the body. The blood then returns to the right side of the heart. This is called the systemic circuit. From the heart, blood flows through large muscular arteries, then into smaller and smaller arteries, then arterioles, and finally through capillaries. It's in the capillaries where the diffusion process works to exchange molecules of oxygen and nutrients for carbon dioxide and other waste products of nearby cells. After leaving the capillaries, blood is collected into venules, the smallest of the veins, then into veins of increasing size until it reaches the heart. The right side of the heart receives blood returning from the tissues and pumps it toward the lungs. In the lung capillaries, carbon dioxide diffuses through vessel walls into tiny air sacs called alveoli and is exhaled. Oxygen diffuses in the opposite direction and is taken up by red blood cells. This oxygenated blood then returns to the heart, completing the pulmonary circuit. In both the pulmonary and systemic circuits, arteries carry blood away from the heart and veins bring it toward the heart.
Our circulatory system is designed to provide each of our cells with a type of diffusion exchange practiced by simple unicellular organisms living in aquatic environments. This exchange occurs at the level of the tiniest blood vessels, capillaries, where wastes, nutrients, gases, and hormones are exchanged between the blood and the body cells. With walls only a single cell thick, capillaries are well adapted to their role of exchange. Most nutrients, oxygen, and carbon dioxide diffuse readily through capillary cell membranes. Salts and small charged molecules, including some small proteins, move through fluid-filled spaces within the capillary cell membrane or between adjacent capillary cells. Pressure within capillaries causes a continuous leakage of fluid from the blood plasma into the spaces surrounding the capillaries and adjacent tissues. This fluid, known as interstitial fluid, consists primarily of water in which nutrients, hormones, gases, wastes, and small proteins from the blood are dissolved. The exchange of materials between capillary blood and nearby cells occurs through this interstitial fluid, which bathes nearly all the cells of the body. Capillaries are so narrow that red blood cells must pass through them in single file. Consequently, blood is sure to pass very close to the capillary walls. In addition, capillaries are so numerous that no body cell is more than 100 micrometers or 4/1000ths of an inch from a capillary. These factors facilitate the exchange of materials by diffusion. As blood is forced through this narrow, almost endless network of capillaries, the speed of blood flow drops very quickly, further enhancing diffusion by increasing the amount of time available for the blood and cells to exchange materials.
In order for the heart to pump blood through the body, it first has to provide blood to itself so that it can obtain oxygen and nutrients. The myocardium is supplied with blood by two main coronary arteries that arise at the root of the aorta. The left main coronary, which then divides into the left descending and the circumflex, and the right main coronary artery. The main coronary arteries run along the surface of the heart as large epicardial arteries. They also send smaller branch arteries into the myocardium, the intramyocardial arteries. These further divide into a dense network of arterioles and capillaries. This system of vessels provides blood to the myocardium, a process known as perfusion. During the cardiac cycle, the contracting and relaxing heart muscle influences its own blood supply by changing the pressure in the aorta, which affects the flow of blood into coronary arteries, and alternately compressing and releasing the blood vessels in the myocardium. During the systolic phase, the pressure of the contracting cardiac muscle compresses the intramyocardial vessels. In addition, the increased pressure in the ventricles causes further compression of the coronary vessels, thus reducing myocardial blood flow. The heart myocardium needs a significant amount of oxygen to do its work. The cardiac muscle extracts and uses 60 to 80% of the oxygen in the blood flowing through the coronary arteries. By contrast, skeletal muscle extracts only 25 to 30%. Hence, blood flow to the heart myocardium is tightly connected to the cardiac muscle's need for oxygen. The heart myocardium has autoregulatory mechanisms that affect blood flow based on the amount of oxygen that is needed. During periods of increased activity or stress, the cardiac arteries dilate and increase their flow of blood.
The heart is a muscle about the size of your fist. It lies behind and to the left of your breastbone or sternum. The purpose of the heart is to pump blood through blood vessels, arteries, and veins to all parts of your body. The inside of the heart is divided into 4 chambers. The top 2 chambers are called the atria and are collection chambers for blood. The bottom 2 chambers are called the ventricles and receive the blood from the atria and pump it to the lungs and the body. The chambers are separated by valves, which control the direction of blood flow. There are 4 valves: tricuspid, pulmonic, mitral, and aortic. Circulation begins at the right side of the heart, where blood from the body comes to the right atrium. This blood passes to the right ventricle, where it is pumped to the lungs to receive oxygen. Once it receives oxygen, it flows to the left atrium and then to the left ventricle, where it is pumped to the aorta and the rest of the body. On the right side of the heart, the tricuspid valve separates the right atrium and the right ventricle, allowing blood to enter the ventricle but not flow backwards to the atrium. Blood flows through the pulmonic valve to go to the lungs. On the left side of the heart, the mitral valve separates the left atrium and the left ventricle. Blood flows from the left ventricle to the aorta through the aortic valve and to the rest of the body. Arteries carry blood with oxygen and other nutrients throughout the body. Veins take blood back to the heart, which pumps it to the lungs to be oxygenated. The heart arteries, coronary arteries, provide oxygen and nutrients to the heart muscle. The right coronary artery supplies blood to the bottom and the back of the heart. The left coronary artery splits into two vessels. One branch supplies blood to the front of the heart. The other branch delivers blood to the left side of the heart. An electric system transmits signals throughout the heart to control its pumping. The electrical signal starts in the sinoatrial, or SA node, which is located in the upper portion of the right atrium and is known as the natural pacemaker of the heart. The electrical signal passes down to the lower chambers of the heart via the atrioventricular, or AV node, which controls the signals so the atria contract before the ventricles. In the ventricles, pathways carry the signal throughout the muscle so that they contract at the same time to pump blood to the lungs and through the body.
সুস্থ থাকার সেরা ঠিকানা আইএলএস হসপিটাল আগরতলা। At ILS Hospitals, your health is our happiness.